aloha, and welcome to today's show. Are you actively working on relationship marketing? Today's guest, Michelle DeNio, business strategist, consultant, and master networker, has proven that effective relationship marketing lets small business owners and entrepreneurs connect on a different level with their customers to boost brand loyalty, retain clients, and provide long-term satisfaction. Let's make your business more profitable with relationship marketing. Who wants to say no to that? I don't think so.
Right? Like that's such a good self pitch. I'm just gonna like give myself a little pat on the back, right? Let me be like, yes, I want to have a relationship with you now, Selena. Like,
yeah.
Not like that. Like whatever.
Anna, you had too much coffee today. I think we've been working too hard. Like this is,
It is true. But this is what's interesting. We actually met our guest today because of that kind of networking and connection, which is awesome.
But
right?
Wait, I want to say this is what is really cool. We met in two different ways. Because how Anna met Michelle and how I met Michelle, totally different.
Yeah.
And then we just so happened to get her on our show. Like win-win. It was almost like three different ways. It was really cool. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out.
In that sense, this is why we know that what Michelle's going to be talking about today actually works. Because when you have two business besties, that's us two right here. Yeah. And then we meet the same guest, but differently through relationship marketing. That's pretty dang impressive because then we talk to each other about Michelle and what she does. And we're like, oh my gosh, hey.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Yeah. Because, and it went like, oh, I know Michelle. And I think Anna was like, how do you know Michelle? And I was like, well, I know her because Elaine shared her with me. And Anna's like, yeah, I did whenever. It was just kind of neat how, like Anna just said. So, okay, Anna, what is our call to action? What do we want people to answer?
Okay. So I want to know, are you actively working on relationship marketing? And you know what? I was thinking about this after the fact. If you don't really know what that is,
right,
drop that in the comments too. Like if the words relationship marketing are not like ringing bells in your head, like, yes, I'm actively working on that. If you're like, I don't know if I'm working on it or not. Or, does that mean getting on LinkedIn and like saying hi a few times around? Is that what that is? Right. If you're questioning even what relationship marketing is, tell us in the comments right now. It doesn't matter if you're watching this live or if you're catching the replay. Drop it in there, tag us so that we can come back and have a conversation with you about it because we're going to talk about all things relationship marketing. So you will get your answer.
Right. This is why we have Michelle on. So she's going to explain to you what that is. You know what I mean? And then you're like, oh my God, I've been doing it for 10 years. I didn't realize it. So,
right.
Okay. Why don't we like stop chitter chattering? Let me bring up her bio so we can.
I'm going to tell you more about Michelle.
Yeah.
All right. Michelle DeNio is a business strategist and the host of the Real Truth About Business podcast. Michelle helps online service providers achieve their business goals by creating customized strategies tailored to their unique needs and objectives. Now, Michelle does not believe in out-of-the-box solutions. She takes the time to understand each client's business and works collaboratively to create a plan that aligns with their vision and values. With her strategic approach, Michelle empowers her clients to make informed decisions and take confident actions toward their goals. In addition to her strategic expertise, Michelle is a power connector. Yes. Truth of all people, an amazing community builder. She is your go-to referral partner. She provides honest advice and unwavering support to help you achieve your business goals and create the lifestyle you dream of. She's really one cool. I'm excited to have her. She's cool too.
Yeah,
she's just fun and cool.
I love how you said cool. Like she's rad.
Yeah, she's got good hair too. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Not good, like
amazing. Hair is looking hot today.
I want to like rock a short do like her. Like
no,
she looks like you said, hot. I mean,
I'm gonna bring her up so we can tell her that while
Michelle, bring Michelle up so we can be like, okay, Michelle.
Yes.
Are we too much? Are we too much? Like,
no, I love it. I love your energy. I was like smiling in the back, in the backstage room, and I was laughing. I was like, oh my God, these two, I want to be your bestie.
Right? No, but I do. I'm telling you, not everybody can rock a short do. And you just you really do.
Like even your biopic, I'm like, okay, she looks like somebody I want to get to know. And then you have such a good vibe about you. And then when you meet you, this is what I'm just going to say. You meet you and then you're like, oh, the vibe is for real. Yeah. You know how sometimes you see people and you're like, they look cool. And then you meet them and you're like, Not my experience with you.
No, I'm glad about that. I'm not one. It's funny. I just recorded a podcast episode about that. I'm like, what you see is what you get. There's nothing else.
Right. No, I love it.
Love
Okay,
that.
wait. Before we get started, let's do our coffee cup selfie because I know we'll get excited and then we'll be like 5 hours in and we've not taken it. So love your mug. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right, guys. On 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Somebody's taking it somewhere. So
somewhere, someone just took a selfie.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, let's do this.
I know we're making you the star. I know your eyes get you. What are they doing?
They're like, hey, y'all.
I'm here.
All right.
I'm ready.
Yeah. All right, Anna, let's do it. Let's start with that first question.
Yeah. So, Michelle, you saw our call to action, which is, are you actively working on relationship marketing? And then I realized when I asked that, I mean, you heard the whole thing, right? It's like some people might not even really know what that is. So this first question, even though it's not worded exactly the way that I'm going to ask it, I am going to start with, what is relationship marketing and why is it so effective?
Yeah, I mean, there's textbook definition of relationship marketing, which gets really deep into like CRM and customer loyalty. But the way I view it is just truly marketing your business by building effective relationships as humans, right? Like we are humans and humans connect with humans. And so the way I always approach relationship marketing is, how would if I wanted to be friends with this person, or how can I build this relationship so that I can really get to know this person beyond their business? Because I think we become very transactional, and that's really the biggest difference, is really looking at somebody beyond just the transaction and understanding what is there beyond that, which builds loyalty, which creates longevity, which creates, friendships, and just long term. I am a big fan of long-term lifetime value of a client versus one-time transaction or something of that sort. And so that to me is the biggest difference and why it's so effective, because it really eliminates the churn and, that constant state of turnover, and you're constantly needing to find new people. Not saying that you don't need to be constantly filling your pipeline, but if you're building relationships well, you have a pool of people. I think, what's the guy's name that calls them super fans? Can't remember his name. I can see his book, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. But that's what to me is relationship marketing, is just creating a pool of people that become super fans, and everything about them, everything, not everything, but enough about them to continue to serve and support them.
Yeah.
No,
his name is Pat Flynn.
Pat Flynn. I knew it was Pat. I was like, oh.
I love that. No, and I think like he does, like, when you create those super fans or raving fans, right? Like they in turn then protect your brand when you're not even around. Mm-hmm. And I love that. I love that you brought that up. There was a lot. I love that you said transactional, because I've already immediately thought of so many people that have like come into my LinkedIn inboxes for just a transactional reason only. Yeah. And so I know, I'm more about this relationship marketing effort, right? Like,
well, so we're going to get into like strategies and stuff, but we always go rogue and ask questions that we don't prep you for in advance, right? So here's my next question. Like, this is kind of this whole like be authentic, create relationships. This is kind of like, I'm going to call it a newer trend, as in the last decade, 15-ish years, right? Like 90s, you did not see this happening. This was not the way of the business world. This was not the way we were taught to do business. I'm aging myself there. I know I look 20, but yes, I was alive in the 90s.
I'm like, what are you talking about? Gosh, I'm so young.
Anyway, but so this newer trend, what is your opinion, Michelle? Like, why is this becoming such a massive thing right now? Not just for a small business, like even big businesses, they're having to jump on board with this kind of relationship marketing.
Well, I think there's a lot more people in the pool, right? Or in the pond. I call it ponds, right? And so not everybody was starting businesses. Their solopreneurship really wasn't a thing. It was much more of a brick and mortar. And so there was not as much competition. And I know a lot of people say like, oh, there's no such thing as competition, it's collaboration. But the reality is that there's a million of everybody that does what we do, right? There's a million other business strategists, there's a million other people that do marketing, right? So there's just a lot more people all fighting for the same business in a sense. And so you can't just be transactional, because it's not just about like who's going to get you the best price or who's going to get you the, that has XYZ product or whatever, because there's 10 people that can get you the same product. And so building those relationships has become so much more prevalent in the entrepreneurial and solopreneur space, because you want to do business. The know, like, trust factor has always been there. But I know personally for me, like even when I worked in corporate, we did a lot of trucking and logistics and all of that. And I had a solid relationship with one person and we had companies coming in all the time trying to undercut her, but I had such a beautiful relationship with her, and I knew that I could count on her at the last minute. If something got lost, I could count. Like, it was the relationship that kept me doing business with her, not the price. And I think that's why it's become so much more prevalent now too, is because price means nothing. You can literally name your price. It doesn't matter. Some people are going to pay thousands. Other people are going to pay hundreds. So pricing is not as effective, in that traditional transactional marketing is not nearly as effective as building those relationships, because people want to know that you have their back. They want to know that they can trust you. They want to know that that you're not going to screw them, and that there's a place of integrity. And there's so many people doing it poorly that, for me, that's why it's become so important. I want people to know that when I come to you, or when you're working with me, that you have every ounce of my integrity, and there is nothing about it that's transactional. It's, yes, business is business, and we all rely on revenue, and we need to make money, but there's a huge piece of integrity that goes with it. And unfortunately, just because of the influx in business ownership and how easy it is to become a business owner, and with technology and now with AI and all of these things, you're going to have to do something different. And to me, I'm going to go with the person that I have a relationship with long before the person that gives me the best price.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what is it they say, right? Like, consumers look for reviews, or they look for that, like, advice from other people before they make a decision, like whether about who to work with or what product to buy specifically, right? Mm-hmm. They're looking for that input from other human beings saying, I had a good experience or I had a bad experience. And then they're weighing that. And so I totally see what you're saying in terms of like how that change is happening, and ultimately long term, that's the kind of clientele, I think, too, that a lot of businesses are looking for, is that longer term, like loyal customer.
Well, I mean, return customers can help keep your business afloat.
Yeah.
Right? More than just the one time.
Yeah.
Well, and it's so expensive, you know what I mean? It's such an expense to have to constantly find somebody new. And so it's interesting, because I have a client who like thrives on project-based work. She does not enjoy retainer-based work. So she, if you looked at her business, you would be like, she's not really big on building relationships. But she is, because even though it's all project-based, they keep coming back to her for multiple different projects. So although she may not work with them on a long-term basis, because having somebody on retainer for 6 months does not fit with her personality at all. But it's the relationship that she has built with them, that when they need the next step, or they need a change, or they have another project, she is immediately the first person they think of. So relationship marketing can be done in both ways. And it can be transactional in a sense, like that on the project base, but it's about that loyalty. It's really about building strong loyalty with the people that are already in your world, knowing that, like, if you put a new offer out there or something, they're going to trust you because you have already taken care of them, or you've built relationships. But on the flip side too, I heard you guys talking a little bit before while I was backstage about how you and I, all three of us, have been connected. I mean, somebody else introduced me to Selena. So even though Selena and I have never really had like a really deep person conversation or done any business together, it came from somebody she does have that relationship with. Mm-hmm. So immediately there was a different level of trust that came with it. It was like, well, if Elaine's recommending her, I'm game, right? And that is why I view it as so effective, because it just cuts out all of that need to build the trust. You immediately have a different level of trust when it comes from somebody you've already built a relationship with.
100%.
Yes. That is 100%. Like, how do you see this changing as like this younger generation grows up, where these personal relationships they're more virtually connected than I would say, like building these personal connections? Like, do you see this changing? Like, I know I'm asking like an almost impossible question, right? But I'm curious now. Like, I'm thinking about the incoming workforce and kind of what that's going to look like.
Well, the thing is I actually think that they're doing a phenomenal job with it because they're not afraid to be on camera, and they literally document their whole lives on camera. And so you feel so connected. I always think of this one person. She does like Pilates. She does like runs a virtual bar studio. And although I know her mom personally, but I've really never even met her, the daughter. I've had a conversation with her, but she shares so authentically on Instagram, and she's younger, that no matter if she puts a product recommendation out, she's like, this is the best cup of coffee or whatever coffee she's drinking, I'm buying it. Like, I don't care. I'm buying it because she's so authentic. And so I think that next generation, that is something they do so well, is that you immediately feel connected to them because they share so much about their lives. They're not afraid to share, and you just feel like you know them. And I think that's been so powerful. I actually just met my business bestie for the very first time this past May in like 5 years. 5 years. We talk every day, all day long, pretty much. And like, we've never met in person, but when we met, it's like nothing was different. Like, it's as if we've been connected like neighbors for 5 years, and we're not. And so there is such a powerful bond that can be built with video and just virtually.
No, I love that. Anna and I actually had a conversation this morning just about like our teens and how they like have fun. Meaning like they like, no, I played with my friend all day on Roblox, right? And there's this connection that they feel is really good. And Anna and I in the group, we were like, man, we got kicked out of our house and we had to connect socially, like physically. I had to touch you. I mean,
ride bikes together, go hang out at the mall together, right? And now that the connection looks so different for me that sometimes I'm like I have to reframe the mindset of what a relationship looks like almost now for business, you know?
It does look different. And I do think that there's a piece of it that's missing, you know what I mean? Because when you do meet somebody face to face, like if you can't hide behind your keyboard, then I do think there is a level of awkward conversation for some people that are so comfortable behind the keyboard. But I know that you can feel very, very connected to a person that you've never met. I tell everybody here locally, I'm like, all my best friends I've never met. I've never met them. Except for this first one. I finally met her in May, but like beyond that, I've never met them.
I love that.
My mom does not understand that. She's just like, but you don't know this person. And I'm like, what do you mean I don't know this person? I'm like, I talk to them every day, da da da. And she's like, she just does not equate that to knowing somebody. And it is wild how the generations change. I know this is not about relationship marketing, but it is kind of, you know what I mean? Like, let's go back and track
different relationships.
Okay, let's get over to the next question there, Anna.
Okay, so now we've talked about kind of what it is and like why it's so effective. So can you give us some, wait, I wanted to do it as a banner, not a ticker. Hold on, people, this is my fault here. All right, so what relationship marketing strategies do you suggest for small business owners and entrepreneurs? So let's talk strategy.
Well, my strategy personally is always coffee chats. I am a huge fan of coffee chats. It's how I built my business for 6 years. I love to just have conversation, just jumping on a quick conversation and face to face, face to Zoom, Zoom to Zoom, and just asking those questions. Like, tell me all about you. Like, tell me, like, how did you get started? What do you do? So for me, that's always step one for me is coffee chats. However, I know that that's not for everybody. Not everybody finds that valuable. And so I do think you can do it through content. Like I said, with some of the next generation, they are very good on their stories, that quick, short form content, TikTok, Instagram, Reels, all of that I think is just as effective, if not more effective, depending. I mean, if you are extremely introverted and small talk conversation is not your jam, then coffee chats are not really going to be your thing. They're going to be awkward. You're not going to build a relationship. And so you have to find the way that you best communicate. And for me, that's video like this. I could talk all day long. And so for me, coffee chats are always the number one. But for somebody that likes to just talk on, a short reel, you can do it that way. You can create engagement, just really engaging with people, meaningful engagement, having conversations, getting to know them, asking them, like engaging on their content that's personal too. And I think it's the person behind the brand is really where it is. So the strategy there is like, you have to get to know that person. Like that's always a big thing for me, is like, just tell me about your kids. Tell me about what's going on. Tell me about your husband and how'd you guys meet? Because these are the things that are going to set you apart when you remember them, right? If you then remember that their daughter's birthday is in March and you send a little gift, or you send a note saying, hey, by the way, tell Emma I said happy birthday, or how are you celebrating her birthday? That really shows that you've cared and you've built that relationship. And so, yeah, it's easy to say like, I don't really care about the person, or like there's small talk, or I don't want to share all my life, but you get to pick and choose what parts of your life you want to share. And everybody for a long time thought I shared my entire life on social media. They knew everything. But for 3 years, I nannied a little girl and nobody knew it. And then one day I posted about it. And they're like, how did I not know this? I'm like, because I didn't want you to know. That's the whole point, is I didn't want you to know, because it wasn't my business to share. She's not my child, but it was a part of me and a part of my journey. And so now I'm sharing with you the journey, but it's about just getting to know somebody and really understanding like what brought them here. How did they get where they are?
I love that you brought in the fact that there's going to be different personality types, but that doesn't mean relationship marketing can't work if you're an introvert, or if you don't like small talk, or if a coffee chat isn't your thing. Because I think people automatically go to that. Well, they want to set up a Zoom call. They want me to get on and talk. And that's not necessarily true. And so, and even for people who do love things like coffee chats, having secondary forms of generation where you are sharing bits of yourself, like in content or a blog post, or, a weekly live where you're not really talking directly with one person. Maybe it's just, in general. Like, I think it's important to mix it up in that way too, so that you're reaching the different facets of your audience that receive that information and receive that who you are as well. Because my ideal client may not love a coffee chat either. This one might not. And so I have to have that multiple avenues for providing that who I am moment,
Yeah, and you can do a lot of it effectively too through the DMs or through like voice memos. Voice memos have become so very popular and people love them. They love to hear the tone in your voice. And it's so much easier sometimes if you're on the move or you're on the go, like to send a quick voice memo and then it does humanize it. That's really the biggest thing, is putting a human behind the brand, because yeah, you are your brand, but like I said, there's a million other business strategists out there, but they're not all going to approach things the way I do. They're not only, some of them are going to have a different personality. Some of them are going to just tell it to you straight like I do, and so getting to know that, and so people can hear it, right? And I don't know. I just am all for like just really getting to know people for who they are and understanding them.
No, I love that. My business coach actually sends voice memos. That's all she really does. Like, and like if we're not responding to her here, she's like, hey, I know you're here. And she just leaves us just a little 1 minute. Hey, I want to check in. Like, how are you doing? What's going on in your week? Like, and I do love that. Like, I think you can hear that excitement that she does want to actually talk to you. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yep. And so you can do it very easily that way. Even if if you're really good just texting, some people are just really good at texting. I've gotten some like long texts. It's like, what's the big deal? And again, you're building relationships with the people that also resonate and communicate in the same way as you do. So for me, if somebody is not willing to jump on a coffee chat, there's a good chance that we're not going to be a good fit anyways, because I'm not going to sit there and ask you a million questions via DM. when I can just ask them to you in a quick 15-minute coffee chat. And if that's okay, but the reality is that's a good chance we're not going to be a good fit anyways, because we don't have the same communication style.
It's so interesting you talk about this. I have clients that are like from their mid 60s all the way down to like late 20s. And the way that they want to communicate or they want the relationship built are all so different. My older client, they love to talk on the phone. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, we can just text, or, you know what I mean? It is so interesting that you bring this, but you gotta do what works, right?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm curious, Michelle, like once you've met someone and you've built this relationship, when is it that you know that the conversion is ready to happen? Like, when is it where you go from being that good, like just general relationship, getting to know each other, to saying, okay, now it's time to introduce kind of, I'm not going to call it a hard sell, but you're adding the sale into the conversation now, right? Like can we work together? Do you want to join my club? Do you want to buy my book? You know, that thing, that point.
Well, I think it naturally happens because I always say, like, start the conversation, continue the conversation, amplify the conversation. So if you're doing, you know what I mean? You've started the conversation. If you're continuing the conversation by nurturing them, hey, checking in. Hey, Anna, saw that you did this. It's, you know, tell me how's that going? Or, hey, Selena, saw that you just signed a new client. Congrats. Love to hear it. Tell me all about it. Right. So there's a level of nurturing. And then when I say amplifying the conversation, usually that's through content, because we always post when we're getting ready to do something. But there's also a time that you can just ask for the conversion too. Hey, Anna, last we chatted, remember I was telling you about the mastermind I had coming up? I'm getting ready to launch that. I think you'd be a great fit based on what we've talked about, or based on what I'm seeing. I wanted to at least mention it to you. I wanted to share it with you. I think you would love it. Maybe not. And if that's the case, that's fine. But, you know, maybe you could pass it along to somebody else. There's that. Or providing a value. I just did this with a client. She's actually not a client, but I saw something that was, I knew her business. I had enough conversation with her, and I just reached out to her and I said, hey, do you mind if I offer you some feedback? Because I'm seeing something and I want to share it with you. But if you're not open to the feedback, you can say no. And she's like, no, please. And so I shared this feedback with her. So it was just creating that value. And then on Sunday, when I mentioned in my newsletter that I had a new program coming up, and if you want to be on the wait list, she was the first one. She was like, add me to the wait list. Right. So because I built the relationship, the conversion to me naturally happens. But I think where people go wrong is like, okay, hey, we had a coffee chat. Now, by the way, did you want to come to the coffee club? Hey, you know, and actually, Anna, if you don't mind, I'll use the example. You and I have built a relationship. We've had conversation. You visited the Coffee Chats Club. You've not joined. And I asked you, hey, by the way, can you give me some feedback on this? Is there a reason why you haven't joined? Right? Like, I felt comfortable enough because I built enough of a relationship with you to say, why haven't you joined? You've said you liked it. You know what I mean? Like, I knew something was going on, but I'm just trying to collect data. And one of two things was going to happen. You were going to tell me that there was something that you didn't like, or that it just didn't fit in your schedule, right? Like, so I collected that data. And so at that point, you being a guest was a conversion, whether or not you've paid, you know what I mean?
And you know what's interesting about that, using that example, right? Like, I didn't, on the flip side now, thinking about it, it wasn't like I felt like uncomfortable answering the question. I wasn't nervous about being like, I can't tell Michelle why I'm not actually showing up. I was like, oh, it's very simple a response right now. Like, I'm in the process of completely changing parts of my business. I don't have the time frame to be able to do that. Also, because I don't even know what I talk about right now, because I'm in the middle of changing everything, right? So being able to relay that to you didn't feel uncomfortable because we did have that relationship. That's a great example right there of what you just said, where you can learn to have an effective, even a hard conversation, if you've spent the time to build the relationship with that potential client or client first.
No, I love this. I just want to jump in because you just gave me like a flashback to when I was director of sales and marketing for a restaurant, and I had to build relationships with our bigger clients for catering, like all these big companies. And one of them was like, hey, we had this thing. Do you want to have lunch for the office? You know, blah, blah, blah. Let me know. And she's like, oh, we can't. And I was like, I like you. Hey, but because we've known each other a long time. She worked for the police department. I was like, hey, like, you know, I'm so surprised you always kind of use us. Like, you know, what changed? And she's like, I got a new boss and he had a budget and he went for this cheaper menu that was offered at the same time as you. And I pushed you because I love you. But ultimately it was a price thing from the person that held the purse strings.
Didn't have the relationship.
Right. And, but she's like, I will use you again. It's just, I needed, you know what I mean? But I think, Michelle, you saying like, ask so you can either know if it's yours and it's something that you have to change or not change, or I don't know, getting that feedback is super important.
Yeah.
You know? Feedback. And it, you know, it doesn't feel salesy because again, the conversations never stopped. And I think that's the point of conversion, is that you can't just meet somebody, have one conversation with them, and then the next conversation you have with them is to sell them something, right? And that's unfortunately where people go wrong. It's like, hey, we had a coffee chat. By the way, you know what I mean? Are you interested in buying said thing, when you've not continued the conversation? You've not nurtured them in any way. You haven't shown any interest in what they're doing. I mean, now granted, I'm not saying I've never done it. Honestly, I probably did it the other day. I was like, hey, I was thinking about you and I'm running this workshop but it was a very genuine, because we had, and them mentioning to me like, hey, I'm not in a position to work with you right now, but I really would like to, so keep me posted. Right. And so we just had been disconnecting, but I had good enough notes to say like, hey, remember we were talking about this and I was thinking about it and this may be an option for you. It may not. I don't think she ended up signing up. Actually, I know she didn't, and that's okay. But that doesn't mean I'm going to stop nurturing that relationship. It's not over just because somebody tells you no. And so, just, you know, keep going with it.
Yeah, it's just not right now. That's all.
Well, and it doesn't mean that when you have something new, business is constantly evolving. Look at Anna just said, like, I'm changing my whole business. So maybe those people that you built relationships before that were from your previous business model weren't a good fit, but now maybe they are. And you just never know when it's going to be the right time. And so, yes, it takes work, but it takes work to create content. It takes work to run ads. It takes work to do, you know what I mean, to send emails. It takes work to create a podcast. No matter what you do, business is work. Getting and attaining clients is work. So pick your heart, pick the work you want to do. For me, I'd rather just invest it into people than ads.
Oh my gosh.
No, I think that's
I love that. And I put your little quote down here because I felt like that was kind of an aha mic drop moment. Like, the relationship doesn't have to end just because they tell you no.
right.
If you get told no and still come back and say, hey, I haven't heard from you for a while, you know, how's your kids doing? Or how's your dog doing? Or how's your business going? I know things were changing up for you, right? Like, that really does tell someone that, oh, they truly actually care about me as a human being, not just getting my money or my business or my, you know.
And you never know when somebody's going to come back. I had a long-term client that I worked with for 3 years through COVID. I mean, 2020, well, I guess it was 2 years, all of 2020, all of 2021. And at the end of 2021, she told me she was moving to a different coach. And I was like, wow, you know, it really kind of hurt and it stung. And I could have just washed her, gotten rid of her, but all through 2022, when she posted she got a new client, I was constantly saying like, oh my God, congrats. She posted a big thing, sending out my biggest proposal. Like, wow, where'd you get that client? Tell me more about it. Like, I was always in her inbox and just constantly cheering her on and still following her journey. And at the end of 2022, she said, can I come back? Right. Mm-hmm. And so I could have easily washed her away and just said, well, she moved on. I got to find somebody new. But I just continued to build that relationship, not with ever expecting her to come back, but she did. And so now we've been working together for another year. I suspect it'll be another year moving past that. But that's really what to me is most important, is that you never know when somebody's going to come back. You never know when their situation's going to change. You never know when they're ready. And you really just are shooting yourself in the foot by ending these relationships too soon.
I 100% like, yes, jazz hands, snappy fingers, all the things. Because I think that's so true. And I think, you know, you have to think a little bit like that if you have the bandwidth, I guess, right? So that you can make room for when they come back. I have a client that comes back all the time, right? She's like, hey, can't do it. And now I thank God for you. I'm so glad you keep saying yes to take me back on as a client. Like, you know what I mean? I love her. I just know and I know that it just makes sense. And I love how you kind of use that as an example of
well, it just takes marketing out of just the sales process and adds in that human factor, which is what what we're talking about, right? Like that human factor really can make all the difference in the long run. It might not make a difference for this conversation today, but it might make a difference for the one we have tomorrow or the one next week or the one next year kind of thing. So yeah, so good. Okay, Michelle, we're going to share a toolkit that you provided to us, but we want you to let everybody know kind of like, okay, so it's your podcast, right? I guess
it is.
Acted like it was all mysterious, but it's your podcast. Tell us about your podcast and like why people need to be listening to this.
Well, I think the name says it all. So I had a podcast a couple years ago and then I put it on hold and I just recently relaunched it. And what I really wanted to do was just truly share the real truth about business. For me, I hear all the time about the messy truth, the ugly truth, the messy middle, all of these things. And the way I view it is that it's not messy, it's not ugly, it's not honest, it's just the truth. It's just the real truth. Business is business, and there are certain things about it that sometimes are harder than others. And that truly is my goal, is to just give all of the good, the bad, the indifferent, the tough, the hard, the easy, the wins, all of the things like when it comes to growing your business, but without all the fluff, with no fluff, like nothing, no fluff, no BS, no, overly inflated promises or anything about that like even a conversation like this, relationship marketing. Are you going to turn business overnight? No, relationship marketing is a long game. If you look at it in a short-term world, you're not going to get anywhere. Like that's just the truth about it. There's nothing good, bad, or indifferent about it. It's just a long-term strategy. And so you fill in with short-term strategies or whatever that is. And that really is the goal of the podcast. And so every episode is just straight truth.
I do too. And I think look, when you got to go run to do pickup at the grocery store or you're running to the airport to get onto the conference, like you're sitting on the airplane, download that so you can listen to it on the plane. I mean, I think that's,
it's so I think we need that dose of truth, right? Like it's so easy to inflate ourselves, hey, get 700 leads in 3 days, right? Like what's the reality? If you have set these expectations that are unrealistic, you're going to get disappointed. So I appreciate a person that's able to say, hey, let's not inflate. Let's talk about real things that are happening in businesses today and real best practices and real ways that you can grow and become more profitable. That isn't like a get rich quick scheme. Dare I say that?
No, I just appreciate Michelle saying straight up, like, hey, it's a long game. Like, when you do this, go into it knowing that, if that's not your thing, then you're not going to be a good relationship marketer.
Ooh, see? Ooh,
that might not be, and it may not be a strategy for you, right? Yeah. And so there is different strategies. One of the episodes that really speaks a lot to this was, I think it's called Accelerating Your Conversion Rate. Somebody asked me well, how do you accelerate your conversion rate? Yeah. And my answer, which I dive deeper into, is if you have enough leads in your pipeline, you shouldn't need to accelerate your conversion rate, right? Like somebody should always be converting because you've built enough relationships and have enough people in your pipeline that you shouldn't need to accelerate the person you met yesterday. Yeah. And so that's a great episode if you're really feeling like, what do I need to do and how do I build this pipeline and how do I continue to build these relationships?
We'll make sure to put the direct link to that episode of Michelle's in our show notes so you know exactly which one she's talking about, because I'm going to listen to that one for sure.
Yeah, so you're going to find all the links and all the information for Michelle at annandselena.com/blog. And when Michelle's episode is airing, the blog on our website is going to be hers directly. So it's going to give you links to her podcast and it's going to give you links to her website, all the things.
Let's go into the next slide for Michelle so she can tell everybody where to find her.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, my website obviously is going to give you information on, everything that I do and all the services and any of my free resources. Facebook, that's actually my personal Facebook page. So I do a lot of that, but also share a lot of my dog because I'm obsessed with my dog Piper. Maybe too obsessed, some people say, but anyways, she's on there a lot too. But I do share a lot of just business little tips and tricks on Facebook. And then LinkedIn obviously is mostly business. I don't share a lot of personal stuff on LinkedIn, although I'm getting a little bit more. And then TikTok's kind of a barrage of both, but much more obviously it's video, right? And so it's really a matter of what type of content you resonate with the most, but all of it's pretty well the same.
Yeah. So go and connect with Michelle.
When you think
Yes,
about it,
thank you.
right here, Michelle just gave you 4 different kind of ways that would make you feel comfortable to connect with her.
Yeah. So if you're all business, find her on LinkedIn. If you want to watch videos and just leave little comments and get to know who she is, head over to TikTok. If you love Piper and dogs too, maybe Facebook is your zone, right?
Yep.
Or if you just want straight up to work with her, just go to her website and
there you go.
do the thing.
Yeah. Everything's there. Yeah. Everything's there.
No.
Awesome.
Okay, Michelle, like we always try to be like, yeah, we're going to keep it at 30. Now we're at minute 42 almost. And because it's been a great, this is how relationship marketing works. We're doing it right now, you guys, with each other.
We're doing it right now.
So
you need to be part of our conversation, right? I hope that you're commenting and drop your thoughts as you're listening to this, right? I wish I'd said that much earlier than minute 42, but
yeah, that's okay. So Michelle, thank you for being a part of this episode. We cannot wait to just kind of learn more about you and who knows, next year, 2024, besties unite.
Yes,
we'll meet in real person. We'll make it all happen, right?
I know, right?
I know. Okay, look, guys, here's what's happening. Music is starting.
Yeah. I mean, we're saying goodbyes. Thank you so much for joining us today on the 15-ish minute coffee chat. We'll see you next time.